Well, it's time to shuffle on out of this continent and get to the next town. We'll be back to the Chaos Shrine at the tail end of the game, but that's quite a few hours from now. I always find that sort of thing a bit annoying, really. You have very little motivation to want to go back to previous towns in most role-player games, other than maybe restocking on some supplies at a store if it's convenient. It doesn't matter if the game was made in the East or West. Once you're done with the town and the main story, there's generally not a lot of reason to come back to it. Though, I've got to admit, Mass Effect 2's format did a good job of making us come back to previous locations numerous times. That was more because they didn't want to have to make absolutely fresh locations, and they were compensating for the sheer number of procedurally generated maps from the first game, but I do appreciate it. Not too sure why I prefer the PSP's version of the picture over the pixel remastered ones as we leave Cornelia. On my emulator, at least, it looks more zoomed out. It helps give the sense that we traveled a good distance, even if it didn't actually take that long to walk here. Well, of course they're feeling overwhelmed by that. They don't have any personal stories in this thing, just the massive scale save the world thing. Pretty much everything they have to do revolves around saving the world in some fashion or another. And it's not like any of the four we're working with has any family or friends outside of the four people they're working with to do said saving the world thing. So, yeah, that would just feel a bit intimidating. I'm sure they'll shine again before we're done. That's the way we're gonna mark progress as we go to each shrine to deal with the various monsters that are preventing the crystals from glowing. I'm sorry, but I've seen far darker worlds than what we're seeing here when we've started with journeys and various other stories. But again, this game was thought up in the 80s, and it would certainly be tough to pull off something like Warhammer in a game this old without getting downright insane. Okay, took us 3 clips to get to the title screen. Does that mean I did things slower than I should have? I'm also fairly certain a number of first-time players back then would have thought that the credits should be rolling at this point. After all, a good number of games released on the same system as the original Final Fantasy certainly would have been pretty damn short. Well, doesn't look like Wesker's knife is going to do much good against ogres. And excuse me for saying this, but I'm not a fan of this appearance for ogres. I'd prefer something more like the 2 heads with horns you see in Warcraft, or the bald, almost pug-like faces from Lord of the Rings. I know ogres don't really have an especially defined look in fiction. They're supposed to be big and strong, and it's not like goblins look all that inhuman in this game either. I just didn't have complaints to do with their appearance for some reason. It's kind of one of those strange things that catches you off guard as you go, that just doesn't seem right. Sort of like seeing an elf character with wrinkles on their face, or a dwarf man without much of a beard. Even if they're fictional races with fictional cultures, there are certain things that you come to expect when you see them. Things that have absolutely nothing to do with the story, but still pull you out when you see them and go, what the hell? Well, we don't know how long it's going to take us to get to the next town, so if we can get away with conserving some of that magical energy on the way there, I'll be happy. though we've certainly got a hell of a lot more shots of Cure in the PSP version than we would have had in the Pixel Remaster by a long shot. The resources are nowhere near as limited. The enemies on the other side of the bridge are definitely several steps up from the enemies we first started off with. The sooner we can start using better gear, so we can take the hits with less damage and deal out some more in return, the better. Why does the game nearly call them crazy horses when they've got horns? Do the game's text boxes just not have enough room to fully spell out unicorns? Because I'm fairly certain that writing out the word unicorn uses fewer letters in English than crazy horse, even when you don't take the space in the middle into account. But then maybe the people translating this game didn't feel comfortable with kids killing unicorns, since most fiction generally treats unicorns as noble magical creatures, and anyone who harms them gets a curse of some kind. It's hard to know, since it's not like I know Japanese well enough to know if they have a specific word for unicorn, or maybe just use hiragana to write a foreign word. Am I confusing katakana and hiragana there? I know one of those writing systems is used to write things that aren't strictly Japanese words in the Japanese alphabet. And the very fact that Japanese has katakana, hiragana, and kanji all as writing systems is one of many reasons, I doubt even with my interest in Japan as a whole, that I'm ever gonna get enough of an understanding of the language to be in any way passable. Kinda starting to wish there was a way to encourage the enemy to strike at Burami instead of anyone else, since he's got more armor than everyone else on the team. But it's not like we can put anyone else on the team on the back line or something. The back line wasn't invented yet for formations. I'm not even sure what the point of the formation option is in this game. Is there some unspoken rule about a character being at the top row versus being on the bottom of it? I generally just let everyone stay in the same spots they were in from the start of in this particular game. And I don't know if that has any tactical effect at all. These ogres really seem to have something against Morn at the moment. Do they just dislike the color white or something? Or was this pair legitimately smart enough to realize the healer takes priority in a situation like this? That leveling up isn't gonna magically heal us or let our MP rise for the moment. It's just gonna raise our maximum there, and good God, the team is definitely gonna need a rest soon, that's for sure. Good thing we've managed to stumble into the next town before we completely become exhausted. Bloody hell, have I mentioned that I would very much appreciate a map around here? Huh. Wonder if lightning would have done more to that lizard than fire. Does that count as an aquatic creature? The feet kind of give me that impression. Still, fire has been doing a respectable amount of damage for this stage of the game, so no real need to experiment all that much. And we've made it to the next town. Bit of an odd name, Provoka. I'm sure I'll forget the name around the point when we leave. For a place that's getting constantly looted and pillaged, things look pretty pleasant around here. Again, maybe I'm just way too used to some extremely brutal worlds or something, but as far as I can tell from an immediate look, it doesn't seem like the place needs all that much help. Though I suppose it's a bit concerning that it has no town guards, and nobody ever mentions them having any kind of king or governor who's supposed to help keep some semblance of order in the region. Or at least it would be if it wasn't for the fact that a game this old wouldn't care about adding in that sort of thing into a nice, quiet town. Though somehow armor and weapons shops are acceptable in a peaceful place. The Pixel Remaster would mention what stats are improved and by how much when you go shopping. This game just mentions that it's equipable by a given character and that it's an improvement over what they have, or at least it claims that in terms of the monk. I'm assuming the battle axe here hits harder, so that's what I'm getting for Boromir. It doesn't seem to lower our accuracy, so why would you pick the sword? Okay, this seems to be all the stores on this side of town. My mistake. We have some white magic you can buy now. Hopefully we'll still have some money for the local inn after all this is said and done. I have the distinct feeling that being able to cast silence on the enemies isn't going to be especially useful. I also have the feeling I'm going to end up forgetting we have that anti-lightning spell when we start running into lightning-shooting enemies. Okay, nobody but the innkeeper to talk to in here. We should have enough money for her. Wait, why didn't I sleep at the inn just yet? Do I have that little respect for the next story fight we're gonna have to go through? Bit of an odd corner to shove the armor shop into. Hell, I was expecting it to be a lot closer to the weapons shop. They'd have the same customer base after all. I suppose a leather shield is better than having no shield at all. But why isn't anyone else allowed to grab a leather shield since everyone is using one-handed weapons? So somehow wearing gloves makes you less evasive but not using a shield. Probably not even worth asking about, is it? Oh, for fuck's sake, the store claimed it would somehow benefit Tyson to wear these gloves, but they do nothing for his defense and still weaken his evasion. I doubt I'd ever have gotten that annoying surprise if I was going through the Pixel Remaster instead. While I'm at it, has Tyson outgrown the nunchucks just yet? Apparently, he outgrew the leather armor somehow. Bloody hell, no wonder I usually use a thief instead of a monk on my team in my usual playthroughs of Final Fantasy I. It's just so much more self-explanatory how the character type grows from level to level and how equipment enhances them. But the monk goes by its own rules, and I don't think they ever go by those rules again in any of the later games in the franchise. Can someone please explain to me how leather gloves and leather armor is somehow more expensive than a rapier? I'm pretty sure the sword is made of more expensive materials, and that the person making it has to go through more work to get it done. But then it's not like I know all that much about either blacksmithing or being any kind of seamstress. I assume you need to be a seamstress to make leather armor. And just what Why the hell does the monk get that little green arrow and the hands flapping if that bit of equipment isn't actually doing anything positive for him? I swear the monk class in this game is just confusing to have to deal with. Well, we're not trying to take on anyone. We're just trying to talk to whoever happens to be in town, but if you want to fight, we can certainly oblige you. Okay, we've got 9 pirates to fight against here. May as well blind them all, since they're all physical attackers. Not that they hit that hard or all that durable in the first place, but give yourself as many advantages as you can. I'm not sure what's got me groaning more, the fact that the move missed some of those goons, or the fact that the sound effect for it sounded like a fart noise. Either way, I don't think the money I spent on the spell was well spent. They're still landing hits on us, despite the fact that some of them are magically blinded. I'm sure it's having some measure of effect, but this isn't really making that spell seem especially great to me. Kind of wish I could target multiple people with this spell, but again, that seems to be something that's going to be introduced in later games in the franchise. It's funny, the things that they changed for the PSP version compared to the original release and the things they decided not to bother fixing. It all seems pretty arbitrary from one version of the game to the other, really. And that does it for that fight. We have officially dealt with the local pirate problem. Not that it felt like all that much of a problem to me. I couldn't tell you were making a fuss in the first place. As pirates go, you guys were far from a problem in my eyes. And the fact that you gave me your ship without us even asking for anything just really gives me the impression you weren't much of a pirate in the first place. Anyway, we're going to need that ship to get where we absolutely need to go next. Hard for me to say since I don't know how hard anyone around here works. To us, this is just another random stop on our way to bigger problems. Still, credit where it's due. I do like the fact that we get to see more people show up once the, quote, pirate threat is gone around here. It's always nice to see when there's consequences for our actions. That's part of why I've never been able to get into any massive online games like Final Fantasy XI or 14. It never really feels like the player's actions have all that much impact on the world around us, and it gets especially awkward when you just finished a quest and then see around a dozen people about to start the same damn thing you just finished. Really doesn't give you the sense that you actually matter. Tyson, stop raising your hands and claiming you want some of this stuff. I've already seen that it's doing nothing positive for you. Anyway, let's see who else there is to talk to in town, then finally get that rest in the inn I've been putting off. From what I can tell, there wasn't anything to fear from the pirates in the first place. But maybe I'm just too damn used to especially brutal raiders that will leave destruction in their wake or something. Good to know that we can't just go to any old beach once we're sailing around. But that doesn't really tell me where we're supposed to go next. As if the lack of a map isn't enough of a reason to open up a guide. We'll see what we can do once we get over there. At the very least, it's a named location, so I'm sure it's going to be important sooner or later, and sailing west is a good general direction to go in, so I'm sure we'll start trying that in the next clip. The second level of spells just doesn't seem to be especially good for our mages. Oh, well, at least the Black Mage gained a Blizzard there. That might be useful later on in a fight. And it looks like we're gonna have to navigate around some of these people just because those alleyways are absurdly narrow. I know the population isn't that large, but still, couldn't they have made the place with the idea that there might be some traffic or something? And now we're finally gonna get that bloody rest. Let's see how much it costs. Anyone else get a short dream of the game Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin? I'm on the fence if I'm ever gonna work on that one. It's certainly got some connection with the original game. Well, I've got plenty of other things to work on while I make that decision, including this game. Oh, I'll be as careful as we can be when our job is to get closer to the next bit of danger.